Welcome back to Chat With, and I have another great guest for you right now. This gentleman is a great singer. He plays guitar, bass. He is a uh, producer. He is a writer. He is a teacher. He is an all around very busy person and has taken some time out of his day for me. So I'm appreciative. He is the front man for The Pursuit of Happiness, Moe Berg. Mo, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here.
And I am very appreciative because I'm a classic rock DJ, and I love the stuff that came out back in the '70s, the '80s, the '90s, and for me, I love the longevity of it. Now you're in a band where you had a major hit with "I'm an Adult Now," which we just played. And how did that song come about? And did it come about before Pursuit of Happiness, or did it come out after the band was formed?
I wrote this. I used to live in Edmonton, and I actually wrote this song while I was still living there. And it was, it was back in the days when you didn't have a cell phone. I don't even think I had an answering machine. So I was walking down the street one day, and when you're a writer, you're always kind of just thinking about songs, thinking, little ideas come into your head all the time. So anyway, I had this idea for the song, and I ran home and just because I was thinking about it, I ran home and I just started writing down all the words that were in my head, picked up a guitar and started playing it. It all came together very, very quickly. Like super fast because it was sort of had just popped into my head while I was out walking around. Nowadays you could just sing the song into your cell phone and it would be, then you'd have it. So I was just very worried I was going to forget everything that I'd been thinking about. And so I just kind of very quickly wrote everything down. And then I, wrote a few more lines and kind of worked out the chords. And that was it. It was done.
So it sounds like it was a very quick process for that particular song. I would gather that for your songwriting, it's not always that easy.
No,
We'll
no,
say.
definitely not. Definitely not. That was probably one of the easier songs I've ever written. Often it's a lot more laborious, have to work on it a little bit more, try and find a good line, a perfect line, and that kind of thing.
Now that the song itself is kind of quirky. I don't mean this like the music and everything. I mean like how it came about. You didn't have a record deal. Pursuit of Happiness was a brand new band, and yet it resonated with people almost immediately. What would you say is the reasoning for that?
It's very hard for me to say. When I wrote the song, it was just a song. I had a whole bunch of songs, and it was just a song to me, and it was. I mean, I suppose it touches on a subject that a lot of people think about. Like growing up. Sort of like the chrysalis of becoming an adult, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. So on the track had a lot of energy, and I think that was also very helpful.
Yeah, and there's a very cool video that goes with the song, and that got shown on Much Music. Do you think that helped kickstart the song as well?
Oh, for sure. That without a doubt, that was kind of the big thing. I mean, what happened was we'd recorded four songs in a guy we knew, a friend of ours, this guy named Scott DeSmith, in his back basement studio back then. He had like a 16 track machine, and so we recorded it there, and we were just going to use those songs to try and get gigs on Queen Street and the Toronto clubs. And then I was with another friend of mine. We were just kind of sitting around my apartment and listening to the demo tape. And his name was Nello Guran, and he was a film director. And he said, what would be fun? We should just shoot a music video. Music videos were, relatively new back then. This is like 1987 kind of thing, 86, 87. And so I said, sure, why not? And so we listened to the four songs, and he said, I think that one would be the best video. That was so I'm a dollar. So he had a friend who had a camera and some film. We assembled a kind of a little bit of a skeleton crew and got our friends to come, and we just walked around Toronto and shot this video, not thinking that much of it. And we thought, well, maybe we'll get some play on like City Limits or something like that, which was the sort of alternative music show on Much Music. And then when we handed it into them, they called us and they said, we're going to put this into rotation. And that just changed everything. Once it started being played on Much Music, suddenly we had a national a national audience, and our whole audience in Toronto just exploded. And so people would go into record stores and ask for a record, and we didn't have one. And so when we go into a record store, the manager would come up to us and say, "Where's your record? People have been coming in here all day wanting to buy it." And so then we pressed our own indie record. We got a friend of ours to design a record jacket, and we did it, and it sold out like in a couple of weeks. So then there was a guy here who had a record store called Record Peddler, and it was also like a label. So he said, "I'll take it over for you." So he worked it for a while, and then Warner Brothers said, "Well, we'll take it over," and they worked it for a while, and then the rest is history. So, but yeah, it was just kind of luck, kind of a fluke, and just timing, just kind of the right thing at the right time. And
Yeah, so basically, Pursuit of Happiness is the ultimate success overnight story, because you formed the band in '85 with Dave Gilby, and then by '86 that song had exploded onto the scene, and everybody knew who you were, and you were doing bigger venues and that sort of thing. For me, that is so cool, but it's not like you were a success overnight. You worked hard at what you did for a long time, starting back in Edmonton with some of the previous bands that you were with. So it must have been very gratifying for you when that record got the success that it did, and you had the opportunity to build a following for the rest of your Pursuit of Happiness music based on that song. And it's lasted to this day. Like, that song came out in '86, and it's still very popular today. I get a lot of requests for it on the station, and that must be very gratifying that people still love it today. New generations of people. Is that for you the goal for your music? Is that you want that longevity? Because a lot of music nowadays doesn't seem to last very long. It hits and then it's gone. But your stuff and stuff of the '70s, '80s, and '90s kind of resonates. What do you feel is the difference now?
well, I'm not sure. I mean, there's a lot of questions in there. I think that I'm obviously very grateful that the song became successful, and it definitely did open a lot of doors for us and sort of helped us get a record deal, and a bunch of other great opportunities came of it. And a lot of what I have in my life right now is probably due to I'm an adult now, becoming successful, um and there's something like very organic about it. It just sounds like music. It sounds like a band playing a song, and maybe that is what a lot of people respond to. Um, it doesn't sound too contrived or like it was, manufactured in the studio. So that might be part of what people are attracted to about it.
Yeah, and the success to the Pursuit of Happiness has resonated. Now, the band hasn't really been doing a lot of live shows lately, but you guys have a new show coming out on the 24th of this month in Brantford, Ontario, for the Brant County SPCA.
Right.
Is that going to be a quote reunion show, even though the band never really broke up?
Well, we do play occasionally. We actually released a deluxe version of Love Junk, and we did a bunch of shows, we promoting that. And that was just before, I guess it would have been just before the pandemic hit. And so we did we went sort of, I wouldn't say across Canada, but went out west, and we played a lot of shows around Ontario. And we've been sort of like playing here and there once in a while, and playing a casino or playing a show here, playing shows in Toronto here and there. And then we went on a tour last year. We went on a tour with the Northern Pikes, and so we did a bunch of theaters in Ontario. And we're looking to do some shows next year, probably shows with in the summer, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're active, but we're not like, we're not really a going concern. But shows come up and then we do them, and if it makes sense, because we still like to get together and play, and it's still fun to see everybody. And if there's people out there that still want to see us, then we'll go do a show. And we did some shows this summer too, and had a blast. We're really looking forward to the Brantford show. It should be a really great night.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, because I want to make sure and push the show and promote it. Because there's something very cool about that show that I got a kick out of. And that's just because I love to see some of my favorite bands have success, and it's nice to see you guys are still having the success you are. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the show. But in 2006, you were inducted into the Canadian Indies Hall of Fame. How did that feel being honored by your peers?
I mean, it's great. I mean, anytime you get recognized, it's very gratifying. I mean, you always hope that, you know, what you did or what you do matters, it matters to somebody, that you're not just playing in a vacuum. And, when you're first starting out, every band struggles and grinds it out and, hopes something good will happen. And for a lot of bands, nothing good ever does happen. They just kind of finally just give up. But, the fact that we were able to have, a career and make a bit of an impact and then to be recognized for that. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't think that was amazing?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I touched on in the introduction is you're an author. You wrote a great book in 2000, The Green Room. That's a short story. And is there a possibility of a Pursuit of Happiness biographical book coming out at some point?
It's not something I personally have thought of. It's not something that anyone has come to me about. I mean, I guess anything is possible. But yeah, it hasn't really been discussed at this point.
And another thing that you're known for is you were working as a producer for young bands like a band called the Silks and bands of that nature. How is that for you? Do you enjoy doing that sort of the producing and helping bands mold themselves into who they are?
Yeah, I guess as a producer is kind of how I define myself at this point in my life. So that's something I do, on a pretty regular basis. And yeah, it's something I really enjoy. I think, when the Pursuit of Happiness was sort of coming to the end of their, run, I was pretty disenchanted with the music business, and I really just didn't feel comfortable anymore. And someone offered me an opportunity to produce their record, and I did it, and I really enjoyed it. And then a record label called me up and said, "Will you produce this record?" And so then suddenly I started getting offers from people to produce records. And I always loved making records. I always loved recording, and I loved the environment of the studio and being able to be creative and help artists and help them with their arrangements and help them get their songs as good as they can be. And it just kind of felt like a very natural sort of second act for me. And so yeah, I've been doing it for a long time now, and still playing shows, but really I sort of think of myself more as a producer now than anything else.
And another thing that you delved into a little bit was teaching at Fanshawe in the music industry department. How was that for you? And are you still doing that?
Yes, I'm still doing that. It's something I also really enjoy. It's great working with young people and talking to them about my experience, as a producer and trying to offer them some skills and some advice and to help them, find their own way in the music business. And so yeah, it's been a really gratifying, rewarding thing to do. And so and it doesn't take up all of my time either, which is great. So I can do it, and I still have time to do all the other things that I want to do.
Yeah, and one of those other things that you are doing is a very cool project that fell into my lap last week, and that is a great super group, we'll call it, of four Canadians who are very, very talented. There's Stephen Page, Craig Northby, Chris Murphy, and yourself, the Trans Canada Highwaymen. Tell us a little bit about how that project came about.
Well, again, this was a project. There was a guy who's a good friend of ours. His name is Jim Milan, and he's not film. He's a theatrical director slash producer, and he worked with, Alton Brown and the Mythbusters, and he worked on the Spider-Man thing in Broadway, and he's done a lot of Kids in the Hall. And so he had this idea to just get a four guys from a certain era, sort of like the 90s kind of era, and get them together all and do a sort of a theatrical show with us playing, and then do a multimedia thing and have some talking a little bit and that kind of thing. And so we did a run of shows, and it was a blast. And so we just decided to keep going with it. And so it's a band. It's not, I think a lot of people, when they hear about it, they think we're just like four guys sitting on stools talking to the audience, but it's like we all play drums, we all play bass, we switch instruments, and depending on who's singing the song. And it's a full-on rock show. It kicks butt. And so we all play each other's songs. So everybody picks their four most popular songs, and so everybody in the audience knows every song that we play. Because if you've been people who come to the show typically are people who, listen to the radio in the 90s or whatever, and or still today. And, so they know all those songs. So it's great. And so we've been doing that for a while. And then we thought we wanted to make some kind of record, and we wanted to sort of, be able to have like a Spotify and Apple Music. And so we had this crazy idea to do a bunch of Canadian covers, and we wanted to do it like a real K-Tel kind of thing. And so we made Chris Murphy, he designed all the artwork. It looks like you're buying a K-Tel record.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I love the cover.
Yeah, and so we did that, and he made a 17-minute infomercial. So if you remember infomercials back in the day, and
I saw it.
Yeah, and so yeah, so again, it's been a real fun project to work on. We worked on it, a lot of it during the pandemic, sort of trading files back and forth from our little home studios and stuff, and that's kind of how we assembled it. So yeah, it's been a blast, and record's out now. We're going to do some shows, and yeah, I think we have one on the 13th in Toronto, and yeah, we're going to announce a bunch of shows in the next little bit, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, when I got the album last week, and I can't thank your management team enough for sending it to me. As soon as I got it, I previewed it, because like there's a bunch of songs on there that I'm in love with. Like I love Loving You Ain't Easy, the Paliarudo tune. I love Undone, Pretty Lady, Raised on Robbery. Like there's just 13 tracks of great music from my youth, and people who are of my age group will fall in love with that album, because the songs, the thing that I love now, the thing I hate more than anything is a cover song where somebody takes the song and, pardon me, but they bastardize it. They make it their own. What I love about what you guys is you've got the songs and you're doing it with your style, but you didn't take away from the song. You could walk into a room halfway through, say, Loving You Ain't Easy, and you know exactly what that song is immediately. You don't have to wait and figure it out. And when you guys did the songs, did you pick like your four songs, and did you sing lead on those four, or were they just your four favorites, and then whoever was best suited sang the songs?
Right. So yeah, so on the record's different from our live show. So our live show, we all pick our four biggest songs. On the record, we all did three songs, except Stephen wrote a song for the record, and so it's kind of the story of how we got together. And so we all picked our own three songs that we were going to do, and we sang lead on our songs, but we all played on them. We all played guitars or drums or bass or whatever on them. So yeah, everybody picked their own three songs that they wanted to do, and then we all kind of played on them. But yeah, whoever is singing on the track that's sort of like considered their song that they chose for the record.
Yeah, and how can people get the album now that it's out? Because I know that it's available on cassette and vinyl, and is it available digitally as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Any other ways?
It's available on CD as well, and we have a store, and you can also get it through Pheromone Records, and it's in stores. I guess you can go down to your local record store and get it as well. And you can buy it off Amazon if you want to. And it's also, yeah, it's streaming on Apple Music, and it's streaming on Spotify and wherever else music streams, I guess.
Yeah, and with that, I want to move back to your show coming up on the 24th. The show is at 8 p.m. and it's at the Town Place Suites, 30 Van Ridge Court in Brantford, and the proceeds are going to Brant County SPCA. Is it going to be a great Pursuit of Happiness show with a lot of your most popular songs?
Yeah, I mean, I think when people come to see the Pursuit of Happiness at this point, I think they're just looking to hear their favorite songs of ours. So that's pretty much what we do. We'll play, it'll be, if you're ever a fan of ours, you're going to know most of the songs that you'll hear at the show.
That's awesome. And the tickets are available at the Pursuit of Happiness Brantford. Well, it's TPAOH Brantford.ca, and you can get yours. And the quirky thing that I loved about this show is you have it at a different venue and you had to move to a bigger venue for this show. That must be very gratifying.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened, but yeah, I mean, we're excited to be there. It's a good cause, and yeah, it's going to be a fun night.
And with that, I want to thank you very much for taking some time for me. Um, like I said, Pursuit of Happiness is one of my favorite bands of my youth, and I love Trans Canada. I listened to the whole album right through, and the day that it was officially released, I played the whole album on my morning show, and gave my listeners the opportunity to hear the talent that you four gentlemen have. And I want to thank you for all you do, for entertaining me for all those years. And I am honored to have met you finally. And thank you very much for being a guest on the show. And to take us out, I'm going to play Raised on Robbery, which is a Moe Berg led song. And I want to thank you for taking some time for me.
It was great to talk to you, Sam. Thanks for having me on your show.
All right. And with that, I want to thank you all for listening. This has been a chat with Moe Berg from the Pursuit of Happiness. And I hope you guys enjoy this track. This is Raised on Robbery. And you are listening to KPHR, Blairmore's best classic rock. Take care. Be good. Love you all. Bye-bye.